where there's love overflowing.
You couldn't imagine a nicer place to live.
I wish I was home. I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing.
This is a period piece, but I think, this, of course, unfortunate reality that there's elements of the Emery family story that could make sense now or any era in American history for that matter. So I wondered why LA, why the 1950s? How did we kind of land on this setting for the story?
Yeah, it was a really unique time in the sense that what I wanted to explore was the American dream of homeownership. And around this time, sort of post-war, vets were coming back. The GI Bill was helping to build a thriving middle class. And that was the beginning of a suburban kind of middle class milieu. And so there was no better time period or decade really to kind of put that. Of course, any Black person knows that that's been anything but a dream. Homeownership has been an absolute nightmare. So getting to explore the nightmare beneath that dream, the 50s were really just the perfectly weird and terrifying decade to put it in. Yeah.
And Los Angeles in particular, I mean, I know there's some significance to obviously what part of Los Angeles, but also just, I imagine just the sunshine kind of has something to do with it.
Well, that's the thing. I love the darker side of sunny places. I'm a huge David Lynch buff, and I think about Blue Velvet a lot and how beautifully he gets at that kind of nightmare crawling beneath a really beautiful space. So LA was absolutely it's a creepy place. I love LA, but it's
I love that you brought up David Lynch. Who are some of the directors or storytellers, or what are some other pieces of work that really influenced this?
Yeah, I really took, we all did. We took our cues. Our goal was to make a show about the 50s that felt like it had been shot in the 60s or the 70s. We took our cues from everything from Alfred Hitchcock to Brian De Palma. The use of the split diopter shot is just, I could have shot everything in a split diopter because I just, that, and it was my DP who would be like, we could cool it with the split diopters. But William Friedkin, Stanley Kubrick, these are all my favorite filmmakers of all time. And The Exorcist is a favorite movie. Don't Look Now is a favorite movie. I love those movies' ability to lean into a slow burn and to focus the horrors really on the emotional and psychological lives of the characters first and let the horror kind of bubble up from there. So we took our cues from all of those films for sure.
I love a lot of the period detail that we get in this, and maybe I'm reading too much into things, but the wallpaper is probably not. Okay, good. I'm onto something.
Very intentional.
The wallpaper, brilliant, beautiful, bold, eye-catching. I'm like, what's going on here? I wondered if you can tell me a little bit more about what we should be paying attention to in the wallpaper, maybe if we're not giving too much away.
Yeah, everything really. This the thing about how intentional this team was, and I have to call out our production designer Tom Hammock and our amazing costume designer Marianne Cheo, because it would get to a point where Marianne would come up to me at the monitor and she's like, "There's a spoiler in that dress," and I'm like, "Get out of here! What are you talking about? I'm trying to watch." And then sure enough, I would look closer at the dress, and there was a print in the fabric that absolutely is a spoiler. That's the level of detail. Now, whether you see that or not, who knows, whether that's just Marianne's crazy mind, but we certainly were super meticulous about making sure that nothing was left unsaid, because all of those points are story detail, right? It just makes for a richer, more nuanced experience. Selling the wallpaper on Amazon Prime. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. The Them collection. Oh, man. I wanted to specifically ask about Alison Pill's Betty. I think she's fascinating for a number of reasons. One is just that this is our villain, and we get a lot of time with her kind of seeing life through her eyes. And I wondered why that felt important to you to tell her story in some respects, in addition to the Emery family story. Yeah,
I think because it's important to see that these are human beings on both sides. It's a human being who is having it inflicted upon them. It's also a human being making terrible choices.
Yes.
Kind of a person, right? And I think it was important to see that she's sort of a scorched earth human being no matter what. Her racism is absolutely at the heart of the story that we're telling, but you even see it in her relationship to her best friend. She's just a scorched individual, and nobody wins in Betty's world.
Yeah.
Important to sort of see that. And I think Alison is ferocious and terrifying in all the right ways. Yeah.
Think of home.